Engines come and go. Trends rise, manufacturers downsize, and now we live in a world where three-cylinder hybrids are apparently the future. Gross. But through it all, there's one engine that car culture refuses to let go of. An engine so overbuilt, so indestructible, that 30 years later, it's still the benchmark for performance. The Toyota 2JZ-GTE. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Pro Street TV. This is the story of how Toyota accidentally built the most legendary Inline-Six of all time, why it's still king today, and why no matter how many turbos Nissan or BMW throw at us, the 2JZ laughs and keeps spooling. And if you missed our history of the Toyota Supra, the video is in the description link below. Chapter 1. The origin story of the 2JZ. The 2JZ story starts in the early 90s, when Toyota was flexing harder than any automaker in history. Lexus was redefining luxury, the Supra was going full sports car, and Toyota's engineers had a blank check. The result? The JZ family. First the 1JZ, then the 2JZ. The 2JZ-GTE debuted in 1991 in Japan, and by the time it hit the US in 1993, it was game over. The 2JZ came with an 3.0-liter DOHC Inline-Six form factor. This was an iron block built, ready for boost, and even had oil squirters under the pistons to help cool the combustion chamber. Sequential twin turbos, and rated at 276 horsepower in Japan, gentleman's agreement, and 320 horsepower in the US, Supra turbo. Basically, even though the JDM model was slightly different than the USDM as far as the turbos and injectors go, the GTE still had overbuilt internals designed to last basically forever. Toyota didn't just make an engine, they built Excalibur. Everyone else brought knives to the fight. Toyota brought a tactical nuke disguised as a straight six. Chapter 2. So what makes the 2JZ so good? I hear you asking now. Hope, so what made the 2JZ so ridiculous exactly? Well, glad you asked. Let's break it down. The 2JZ block was built from cast iron and featured a closed deck, with a main girdle strong enough to withstand over 1,000 horsepower on stock internals, which were forged, with oil squirters in each cylinder. This engine was the example of what can happen when engineers are given a blank check. Toyota engineers basically built this thing to survive nuclear winter. Iron block? Overkill. Forged internals? Crank and mains strong enough to endure boosted beating? You betcha. Then, the infamous 2JZ cylinder head, dual overhead cam glory, with 24 valves and completely aluminum. This head flows beautifully and loves boost. It's also a very common swap for 2JZ-GE engines, or the naturally aspirated cousins to the GTE. Of course, we've already touched on the internals. Forged crankshaft, beefy rods, coated pistons with aforementioned oil jet holes underneath. Other engines were built to last 150,000 miles. The 2JZ was built to survive abuse from drunk teenagers with boost controllers. And lastly, the turbos, which were sequential twin turbos. Smaller turbo for low end, bigger turbo for high end. Yes, the twins eventually get swapped for a big single. But out of the box, Toyota gave you a 320 horsepower car that pulled like a train and kept going to redline like it had something to prove. Enjoying this video so far? Don't forget to drop a like and consider subscribing to Pro Street TV for all the latest car culture coverage and how-to guides. And of course, long-form JDM videos like this one right here. Chapter 3. But not all 2JZs are created equal. Let's nerd out for a minute, shall we? Along with the GTE is the 2JZ-GE, the non-turbo version, that's found in Lexus GS300, SC300, and of course the IS300. 220 to 230 horsepower, and with quite a few variations between them. Early models of the GE still featured thick rods, but were hampered by a distributor for spark. Later models integrated VVTi, but had weaker internals. Either way, the 2JZ was still overbuilt, and even the GE makes for an excellent turbo candidate. This was the daily driver version of the 2JZ, but joke's on Toyota. Tuners found them in junkyards and boosted them to 600 horsepower anyway. Then the turbo models with the JDM 2JZ rated at 276 horsepower, wink wink, featuring 8.5-to-1 compression and ceramic turbine wheels. The USDM version was rated at 320 horsepower and turbos with steel turbine wheels. Slightly larger injectors and an overall better starting point for any build. The US got the better one for once. Miracles do happen. Lots of kudos to many of the 2JZ shops and channels out there, which really helped us collate all this data. Quick shout out to Powerhouse Racing and Supra V-World for all the information and data they share. Links in the description. Chapter 5: Rivals and Comparisons. So, how does the 2JZ compare to its rivals? Let's stack them up. First off is the RB26DETT, found in the Nissan Skyline GTR, or Godzilla. This engine is a high-revving machine that's steeped in racing heritage. The RB is built from an aluminum block, which means it's weaker at high boost. RB26 fans will swear by their engines, until they see the repair bill. 2JZ guys? They just crank the boost and ask if you want to ride. Then one of our favorite swap engines, the LS-V8, found in almost everything from Camaros to Silverados. Cheap, powerful, can be found everywhere. Not much legendary status or street cred from this engine swap, but who needs that when you've got an LS-V8 in a lightweight chassis? LS swaps are like Walmart, affordable, convenient, and everywhere. But nobody writes songs about going to Walmart. Then there's the 4G63 from the Mitsubishi Evo or the DSM triplets. Strong, turbo, good rally heritage but crankwalk and fragile transmissions. And last but definitely not least is the EJ20 and EJ25 from Subaru. Fun rally engines but known for blowing head gaskets. Subaru guys like to say built, not bought. What they mean is rebuilt constantly because the head gasket failed again. Chapter 6: The Supra Factor. The 2JZ wouldn't be legendary without the MK4 Supra. Together they became icons. The MK4 Supra was fast, reliable, and then the Fast and the Furious happened. Suddenly everyone knew the words 2JZ, even if they thought spark plugs were Bluetooth devices. Paul Walker saying 2JZ no shit is basically gospel at this point. Chapter 7: The Cost and Craigslist Tax. Back in the early 2000s, you could get a complete 2JZ-GTE for under $3,000. Today, people want 10 grand for a tired long block and 200,000 miles. Supra owners treat these engines like rare diamonds. Craigslist ads sound like hostage negotiations. $15,000. No lowballers. I know what I got. This has caused a recent resurgence in the 2JZ-GE, or the NAT for the uninitiated. Chapter 8: Legacy and Immortality. Even today, with new engines like Toyota's BMW-sourced B58 in the A90 Supra, people still say, yeah, but it's not a 2JZ. That's the level of respect we are talking about here. 30 years later, and the 2JZ is still the king. Tunable, bulletproof, and endlessly cool. It's not just an engine, it's a movement. So why is the 2JZ-GTE so legendary? Because it's everything an engine should be. Strong, reliable, tunable, and timeless. Other engines come and go. The 2JZ, it's forever. Thanks again for making it to the end, guys. This has been Hope from Pro Street TV. Make sure to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments why you think your RB26 LS or Subaru is better. Spoiler alert, it's not.